Okay, call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners, November 20th.
Oh, Commissioner Ernst,
Here.
Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins,
Here.
Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright.
Any changes to the agenda? Nope. Public requests. Open it up.
Hello, Robert Ducate, 5351 Northwest 3rd Terrace. Can you hear me now? Okay. At the last meeting, very nice presentation on the plans for the North Park here in Boca Raton. Obviously, one of the things as a spectator that I noticed and your planners pointed out very nice graphically was this highway right through the middle of a 70-acre park. And I know I've attended, as well as you've all attended, the joint meetings in which the subject of Jeffrey Street opening up across the railroad track has been talked about casually. Well, your planner pointed out that there was some type of application or something that was made, and that was apparently to the FDOT, which I recently handed a copy out to everybody here. It's the first I had heard about an application officially being made. And in this application, which I believe, although it's undated, I believe it was in April of this year, a couple of things that are pointed out is that are there plans for any structures to be built near the crossing intersection? None planned. Identify any traffic generators such as recreational areas. They point out this is on section 8.7 and 8.8. The city, the only potential change in development may be the conversion of portions of the dormant golf course on the west side of the FEC Railroad. Redevelopment has not been approved, which is true, but again, maybe not telling the whole story, of course. And then again on section B3, they point out provide description of land use on each side of the rail crossing, and the west of the crossing is a golf course, which is no longer operational. So again, maybe not telling the full story about what the plans are. Also on section B11, they point out what is the predicted number of pedestrians and bike riders that will use the proposed crossing over the current period in the next 5 years. It is projected approximately 200 pedestrians and 25 bicyclists will use proposed crossing daily, which is based upon existing pedestrian activity intersection of Jeffrey and Dixie Highway. So again, that's 200 pedestrians and 25 bicyclists. 28th Street, which they're planning on closing, which is a separate report for that. They had no bicyclists during peak hours and 2 pedestrians. So quite a difference from a safety perspective. Again, I think that the reason I'm bringing this up is safety. If you're going to have a park, it's going to be bisected by a 4-lane undivided highway, I would encourage you to pass a resolution to give to the city, FDOT, FEC, and as we know, the FEC has already opposed the general perception of this. So again, my suggestion is officially make it on the record, as your attorney always says, and pass a resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hey, doing Joel Rask, 485 Northwest 69th Street in Boca Raton. I also represent the Hidden Lake POA. I just want to thank you guys again, as usual, for the parks you've done. The way you maintain them, they're great. Our kids love them, obviously, for all the sports programs that we do. I really want to thank you for acknowledging the additional needed family amenity at North Park. All those signatures that I turned into you, obviously, they never come, they can't be here, but they are out there. Those are the people who use these parks. What's really needs to be understood about those people also are the driving force of your youth sports programs. Those are your coaches who are assigned that. Those are your division reps. Those are the people who are playing in the sports program. So they're the ones who are going to use this facility, whatever's there. So what I just want to urge you to do is really look at other facilities I've sent you in the past, like Burger Shack, like Pop Stroke, these friendly facilities that are successful during your discussions, during your brainstorming, as how to kind of model what you're going to put in the RFI. Because there's more than anything that we would love to have as all these families in a place that we can go after games and not be stuck in a restaurant and have to put a phone in our kid's face to keep them distracted, but we can let them go run around free, have a bite to eat, watch a football game. Because if you go to Yard House, families are running out of there. Where the people who don't have kids, they'll spend hours out there. But as families with kids, everyone else in the city, the same exact thing. We want our kids to be able to go run around free while we're having a good time. Whether it's watching football, we can play cornhole, our own games, the kids can play their stuff. But I just want you to urge you to like look at these other facilities like Burger Shack, Pop Stroke, and just really kind of model it to something fun. Because this is a one-time thing you guys have a chance to do. Aside from the family friendliness, it's a place you can have corporate events, birthday parties, fundraiser events, and it can be a one of a kind amenity in the city that does not exist yet. And so I'd love to see something like that. I know everyone those signatures, everyone else. And if you go stand at the soccer fields on a Saturday, have a board up there, you'll be surprised, you'll be shocked, and you'll be like, why didn't we do this sooner? And the only problem you'll probably have is you didn't build it big enough when you do it, because it will be swamped. I can guarantee you that. So thank you for everything you guys do again. And again, I just want to thank you for keeping the families in mind, and look forward to seeing what you guys do with this. Thank you.
Ooh, anybody else? No. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we are going to close public comment, public request, and do approval of the minutes of the previous board meeting.
Move.
Joanne?
Commissioner Ernst? Commissioner Engel? Commissioner Rollins?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang? Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, regular business. Number one, the Swim and Racket Center surge protection. Brianne.
Commissioners, on page 6 of your agenda packets is a memo outlining the need for the surge protection at the Swim and Racket Center. And I just want to make sure somebody's okay out there. I just want to tonight ask for approval to move forward with bonded lightning protection for $7,300 as presented in the packet.
I move to
Second.
To go forward with surge protection at $7,300.
I second Steve's motion.
Why didn't this building come with all that? It was a lot of money.
I don't know if anybody's seen the song Surprise, Surprise, but no, it did not come with this building. So we need to add it on.
Okay.
And the city facilities people have recommended that because they're the ones who come out and do all the repairs. They said, you guys don't have this on here. It'd be a good thing to add so we don't have to keep replacing equipment.
Okay.
Ernst? Commissioner Engel? Commissioner Rollins?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang? Commissioner Wright? Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to number two, the RFI for North Park.
Commissioners, on page 8 of your agenda packets is an RFI written out trying to go along with the motion that was made at our last meeting. This is for the 2-acre site where it's 1.9 acres to be more specific, where the old hotel used to be on the southeast corner of North Park. So I look forward to your input, any changes, edits, or things you'd like to not do or do.
Hey. Any comments, questions from anybody? Bob?
Yes, ma'am. As a matter of fact, I do have a question.
Okay.
The concern I have at this point is the traffic issue, and that's been raised by I think several other residents in the Boca Chica area, including today with our good friend Rob DeCate. And I know at one point we were talking about the traffic study, and the traffic study. Am I not correct in saying that the city has to undertake the traffic study for the purpose of setting up the crossing over the railroad, and then do we have to do a traffic study ourselves for anything that we might plan to put in that little short parcel there at the intersection of Second Avenue and Clintmore, the eastern portion that we're talking about tonight, as far as the RFI. Where are we with a traffic study? The concern I have about anything that we might put there that would attract a lot of traffic, and I don't know whether it was Mr. Celeberti that mentioned that last time about getting into that parcel off of Second Avenue could be a challenge into and out of that at that intersection, which is already pretty busy. And are we pushing the envelope to try to get this RFI out there this early in the development of the pickleball facility and the city study for traffic on that Clintmore extension? That was a question.
An update, Miller Lake is working on their traffic study, so they have to do one for the park amenities. And then the Butters Group, once our agreement is finished with them and they start their process with the city, they would probably also be assigned to do a traffic study for their specific facility. So those are not complete yet.
Well, the same, I guess that the point being on a traffic study that Miller Lake is doing for us, has not included anything that's being developed on that corner parcel of land. It's just the park itself and the pickleball facility, traffic in and out. Is that correct?
Specifically won't be even the pickleball. That'll be the Butters Group that has to do the traffic study for that amenity. But you're right in saying that theirs does not include that corner.
Okay, but we would have to do the same thing, have a traffic study on whatever RFI we selected. Is that correct?
Select would have to do that. Yes.
Yeah. It appears to me that we have so many moving parts on this traffic issue that I don't want to try to get ahead of myself in developing that parcel. I know that one of the comments was in the RFI was to make it, income producing to facilitate, reduction of expenses for the park property itself. To me, that means additional traffic, and I'm just concerned that we may be, pushing the envelope, trying to get something done right now that would be a problem for the city to approve, given everything that's going on that in that little corridor there.
Okay. Craig.
Bob, I appreciate where you're coming from on the traffic. But I think that's kind of saying no before it even gets out of the gate. The idea here is to just get finished with this north side. And by the way, we may come out with nothing. We may not find anything that is meaningful here, but I remind everyone that corner spot is probably the most mitigatable spot for traffic, because you can have in and out. It was formerly the hotel site, and it has some infrastructure there, so it would be a waste not to at least get some ideas out there. But we can put in here also as a requirement, that clearly no cost to the district, and whoever is doing anything, if approved, will be responsible for traffic study for everything. This is just to get the ideas going of what could be out there. And again, we could table this at any time, but if we table it now, you may not hear anything that could, further develop into something that we say, that's a really good idea, but it needs to go on the west side, because our next phase is going to be the west side. In my lifetime on this board, I sure would like to get this whole park done. And I think it takes an awful long time. And I think the city is willing to help out on the west side. But we have to have the ideas. They might.
Well, we're talking about someone with an RFI that's going to come in there on usable park property and put up some type of, or propose some type of an income producing project. I think that I would have more in mind as a recreation facility that probably would not generate the revenue, but would be more compatible with the park, such as a field house that I had proposed we consider over at Patchogue Park. And I just am uneasy about the activity that this could generate that could take some time away from other productive issues, and then we end up doing nothing with this.
I'm kind of more on Bob's wavelength right now, where I'm okay holding off on this a little bit, at least till we get the contract sorted also with the Butters Group, because who knows what might come of that once we start really discussing things with them. So that's kind of where, and also like the traffic studies that are being done, they're not included. If I'm correct, they're doing the traffic study without the thought of the railroad track going through. I mean, because it's not there, right? So, so it is concerning, the traffic. And also just the, you know, who knows what we're gonna get back from this, but it's also like bad timing too with like the holidays and stuff. So I'm okay holding off on this for a little while. I mean, nothing's happening with that, you know, space at the moment. It's grass, it's fine at the, you know, for the time being. So I'm okay holding off for a little bit on that for me. Go ahead. Susie.
Where, Brianne, where are we with the Butters contract?
Commissioner Rollins, and I can speak to that issue. We have begun to put pen to paper and started to frame out the document based on the proposal that was submitted along with the bid specifications that were put together by this board. We have not shared a copy with the Butters Group as of yet, but we have had some conversations with their counsel, and we're hopeful in the next couple of weeks we'll have a copy to share with Brianne along with Mr. Butters and his team for their review. The document is in draft. We certainly hope to get it out the door for Brianne preliminarily, followed by the Butters Group in the next, again, maybe 2 weeks or so, round numbers.
Thanks, Counselor. The question I would ask, and following up with what our chair mentioned was with the Butters Group, is I think even Craig had suggested that we solicit ideas from them on that parcel. And if in fact they were to submit some type of a suggestion, would we have to reopen this for a RFP or RFI, or could we amend their contract to take into consideration the development of that parcel that's in question tonight?
I think theoretically we would be able to amend their contract depending on what the proposal ultimately looked like and depending on what the responses to this potential RFI came back as. I mean, the district ultimately would retain that flexibility. And to the extent that you received requests for information and were not happy with those requests that came in, you certainly wouldn't be bound by any one of those proposals. And you would have the opportunity to reject all the bids to the extent that it became necessary and revisit that discussion with Mr. Butters and his team.
But that could be done prior to the release of an RFI, could it not?
There could be a conversation, yes.
It just occurred to me that that might be an option to consider and reason for the postponement of the release of the RFI.
Susie first.
I have a question for Brianne. It's 1.9 acres. When we were trying to do a field house over at Sugar Sand, how much land was that going to take up?
I don't remember how much property that was. I think it was within that mark. I don't know the number off.
Okay, so I mean, it just seems like we should use more than 1.9 acres to do a field house and parking and what have you. I don't know. That's why if you could look into that, it's
Sure.
probably in the documents.
Well, let me just jump in there for a second. As far as that goes, that property backs up to the rest of the park, so the parking there could be accommodated in the park itself, and then entrance to that facility be from the east side rather than coming in off of Second Avenue or even at the intersection. Just saying.
What occurs to me is we get if we did this now, we get the RFIs back. We still have all these other things that we need to do. these may be great ideas now. In a year, when we're ready to act on it, or whenever it is that we're ready to act on it, they might not be as useful to us as we originally thought. I would rather wait till we get the other things that we have on our plate in relation to North Park settled, like the contract with Butters, like what Miller Lake is doing as far as traffic studies go. And also what Mr. Duquesne gave us. This is another, this is another monkey wrench thrown in. A lot of the stuff that's on this application is misleading. As far as development of North Park, they're saying, well, may not be developed. I hope to God that's not the case. So I don't have a problem with doing an RFI. I just don't think this is the right time to do it.
So I'm getting a feeling that it's not the right time. So maybe, may I suggest, I would like to know when is the right time, but I do like Bob's idea that I agree with the need for a field house for sure. This might not be the right location. It might be something we could work out with the Butters group to do. But I would suggest that let's defer this until the second meeting in March, and we'll have, better feel and flavor for what we're doing with these things. But I really don't want to leave this corner lot empty and move on to another project until we have defined the entire east side and then move on. And I think it takes a long time to do all these things. So just getting the ideas, getting other people interested in doing something. We have the land. It's going to take, years before it's developed, as we found out with the Butters group. And there's no reason why things can't go on simultaneously. But to Bob's point, maybe the Butters group would be interested in doing something in that spot, and it would fit well with them doing the whole thing. I'm not adverse to that. So suggestion is postpone this to the second meeting in March.
Is that a motion, Craig? If that's a motion, I would second that.
Is there a reason second meeting in March or?
I don't put a stake in the ground. It will never happen.
Okay, so we'll just keep it. Okay. I'm hoping that we can have a joint meeting prior to that as well. Prior to discussing that, now that they know that we've chosen the Butters group and we know that they're putting a crossing. I think it would be a good discussion to have now that all of this is kind of out and as well. So I know that was supposed to be discussed.
When do you think you want to have I mean, I agree with you.
The joint meeting.
They're going to have their strategy meeting usually in April-May timeframe. So do you want to do it before or after?
6 months from the last one, right?
Okay.
Which was February. So after the holidays, and so we'll push for something maybe in February.
They're going through an election. So their election is March 12th. Yeah. You're going to have 2 new people though. I think you need to have those people on there.
We just need to get a meeting set with whoever, right?
Would it help you if it was the second weekend of May?
Yours?
Yeah.
You mean? Why don't we just play it by ear and we'll
Because it
see
won't
what-
happen if we won't do it. That's why I'm concerned about it. If we don't put a date out there, I fear that it's okay. We'll move on to the next thing.
for the corner piece.
For the corner piece.
I don't think it's gonna get forgotten. We know it's there. I mean, we know it's gonna be,
If you'd like to change the motion, Madam Chair, you can.
I just think we know it's there and we'll definitely get to it for sure. I don't think we need to, put a stake in it we're doing it on this date. You know what I mean? I don't know, whatever you want to do, whatever the board wants to do.
I do agree with Craig that we could very easily go past, spend 6 months and wake up and say, whoa, we forgot all about it. And we know it's there, but I like the idea of having a full slate of members of council and doing it in March would until after the election, and could be some of the same people will be elected, but I know there's 1 or 2 that are maybe turned out. But we don't necessarily. I mean, I would like to have a meeting, a joint meeting with city council. If we have to do it in February to get a consensus, so be it. Otherwise, I would say wait until we have the newly seated members of the city council.
You're gonna, Butters Group has got to get their contract done. Then you got to start presenting stuff to the city. So there, you want to have that meeting with the city council to what additional buy-in do we need from them or any other thing? So it's either, when is it? Thinking through their timeline of when this would be, would that be in February, or will we have more information that they could approve in April? That's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm just thinking you might need a little extra time, because if you have the meeting too soon, there's nothing really dramatically changed. Or are you trying to bring in what we just got together? We're going to have the whole thing in front of them. What are we going to have?
We've already presented to them what we're doing on the east side. They all know what we're doing. So unless there's a change with the Butters Group, then it's the same presentation that we've done before.
I think what you want to have is Butters Group signed up, you know, so we know we're doing a paddle center over there, and anything that we're doing design wise, it's more flushed out, as we've seen in these recent meetings. So we have it more cohesive. Before is a little bit conceptual in my mind, but now they can zoom in on things closer. I think it's important to get as much done as you can to have it. So, give them get a thumbs up on it to move forward.
Since we know what we want, and what we want might not be what the city wants in terms of a time frame for a joint meeting. So, and I understand your point about, you know, you don't want this stuff to get buried under a bunch of other stuff. So how about we set this up to be discussed at the second meeting after the next joint meeting with the city? Okay, this way, well, it could be, but we already have an incentive to push for that meeting. I understand your point, and it's yeah, okay. So do we need a motion for that, Counselor?
You have a motion. You need to amend the motion that's currently on the floor.
I'll make it easier for you. May I amend the motion? We'll bring the RFI up sometime in 2024 after our next joint meeting with the city council. That good?
Yeah,
Second,
okay.
call the question.
I have some more. Go ahead.
Do we need to have Jacob contact the FEC as far as challenging some of these? Oh, I'm sorry.
Do we need to have Jacob challenge some of these comments that were made that, you know, it's an undeveloped dormant golf course, and make the FEC aware that there is going to be development there?
And I think that's the responsibility of the city, not our responsibility. You know, and we haven't submitted anything at this point, so I don't know. You know, I mean, they're well aware of the drawings that we've put out, right? So, but is that something that we can do? Is that something that you would do if it's not our application, right?
It is not our application, and candidly, I would need to do some research as to the process. I'm fairly confident there is an opportunity for the FEC to solicit input from other interested parties and affected parties and agencies who may have some bearing and some interest in the application. Board may recall back in 2020, our office was actually directed to reach out to the FEC and have a specific conversation to them with regards to the railroad crossing at Jeffrey Street. Now, again, this was several years ago, but at the time we spoke to their vice president, a gentleman named, his name here. His name was Richard Ledoux, correct. Excuse me, Robert Ledoux, who we spoke to at the time. We were advised, and again, this is back in 2020, that there was no intent and they had no records of putting in an additional railroad crossing at Jeffrey Street. They actually at the time indicated to us that they hadn't approved a new crossing in over 30 years. So it is unknown whether or how this particular application will be received. I know it's been pending with the FEC for some time. The estimated cost, about $500,000 for a new crossing, and that's not only at this location, but at any location. This was just some of the general information that we were provided at the time. If it was the will and direction of the board, we'd be happy to reach out to the FEC, to our contact there, and have a further conversation, try to get a little more information with regards to the pending application.
Bob, you had a question?
Yeah, I think we have a motion on the floor that probably needs to be addressed before we go to the next motion, which is dealing with the FEC. Because Craig had made a motion, I had seconded about scheduling that meeting 2 weeks after the February joint meeting or whatever. You'll have to, Joanne will have to read the motion back, but I think we need to get that settled before we move forward with another suggestion to Jake.
Okay, Joanne, go ahead.
Sure. You want me to read it back?
Sure.
Okay, so, to have the RFI go out sometime in 2024 after the next joint meeting. Okay.
Okay.
All right, roll call, Commissioner,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang. Yes. Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay. So the FEC now, so where does the board stand on if we want to, if this is something that maybe we should reach out to the city first or directly to the FEC? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, this is signed in April. So it's been out there. It's already percolating between the city and the FEC. I think it's not for us to get involved in it. I would rather let the city deal with it, and they have good reason for what they're doing. And then I do think I would be surprised if the FEC doesn't, and the railroad does not come back to interested parties. And we're definitely an interested party. Just like when any kind of construction project in Boca, they put signs up glowing and everything that this is happening and there's a meeting on it. There'll be additional discussion. And at that point, we should participate in whatever that is.
Right, it's in the early stages.
It's in the very early stages, unless you're affirmatively saying we're objecting or something. I don't think we are. They also are our partner in this. So,
Well, I agree with Craig, but I think at the same token, it wouldn't hurt to find out what their timeline is as far as requesting input from adjacent properties. And nothing more than just an inquiry. I wouldn't suggest we make our position known or unknown, but just say we want to know. We don't want to be overlooked in this process. And I'd say just raising our hand and say this will affect our. This is going through our property, and we'd just like to have some input at the time that you open this up to the public comments. When will that be?
Maybe Brian can reach out to the city and request the timeline on it so that we can get some more information from them. Yep.
I think we just need to find out whether it's through the city, if they can answer it, and if they deflect the question, then we would have to go to the FEC just to find out. I mean, it's just an inquiry. It's not a comment that we want to make at this point, but we want them to be held accountable to us, and should that happen, and let us know that we're an interested party. I'm sure they probably do, but wouldn't hurt to raise our hand.
Okay, so we are holding off on the RFI and we have directed Brian to request some information from the city. So that is the end of our regular business. Approval of payroll and invoices, Craig.
so Madam Chair, I'd like to make motion for approval of payroll and invoices in the amount of, it's actually in payroll, but invoices, 95,504 and 72 cents.
Second.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins,
Right. Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, reports and discussion items. You want to go first?
Sure. Commissioners, tonight I want to get into the CRA. First, I'm just going to start with a little positive note. I want to congratulate Joanne and her family. Joanne became a first-time grandma a week ago, Friday. So congratulations, Grandma. She's entered her grandmother era. So we're all excited for her. And being a grandma is a pretty big deal. Now I'm going to get into the CRA stuff. I attended the CRA meeting last Monday. The Board of Commissioners for the CRA voted unanimously to extend the CRA until 2042, which is, as we all know, 17 years longer than we anticipated. Being financially obligated to that agency, the following night, the City Council, which is also the same board of the CRA, they surprisingly voted unanimously to extend the CRA until 2042. There are no other agencies that have to approve this. So the bodies, although they're the same people, they were able to pass this extension with nobody else's involvement or approval. So what this means for us is it could be 60 million, it could be more than that. I spoke at both meetings. I spoke at the CRA and I spoke at the City Council meeting. And during the meeting, the mayor actually, at the City Council meeting, the mayor said he took issue with the characterization of a $60 million loss, but it's actually a very, I didn't get a chance to respond because I only spoke during public comment, but for the sake of public clarity, the $60 million is an actual real number. We based that on a 3% increase. I can tell you from last year to this year, our payment is at 13% higher. 1986, we started paying about $70,000 a year. Last year, we paid 2.3 million. This year, we'll be cutting a check for 2.6 million. So even if we were able to cap the payment at 2.6, we're still going to be out $44 million that we anticipated having for our parks and our beaches, which are also aging. So I want to make it clear that this is not a characterization. It's actually reality. We stand to lose a significant amount of money that we intended to have to renovate our parks and our beaches, which are aging. It's going to have a significant impact on our budget and what we plan to do in the future. So where do we stand on the motion that Commissioner Ernst made a couple weeks ago about pursuing all options regarding the CRA? As you all know, I sent a copy to all of you that I submitted a public records request to the city. We're still waiting for a response to that, which will help us clarify some issues that we have with regard to the ILA. We also have the option of pursuing a full exemption from the city, which we did in 2020 to no avail, but we can certainly do that again. And we are working on that paperwork and application process. The cap option, I've been told, is not, the city's not willing to do it. We can still obviously look at how their extension may change our opportunity to do the cap. And then we also have an option and something that we're going to look at more closely is we have a lot of obligations to the city for different properties. There may be areas where we can relieve some of those obligations to make up for the loss of revenue that's going to end up going to the downtown area. So that's where we're at with it. That's the update on the CRA. And that is all I have for my comments tonight.
Oh, okay. Council.
Thank you. Just real quickly, I was going to mention our status with regards to the preparation of the concessionaire agreement with the Butters Group, which I spoke briefly on during the North Park RFI items. You have an update as far as the status of that document. And then just to supplement Brianne's comments with regards to the CRA, we are working diligently with her with regards to a variety of potential options and pathways to travel down. We've had the opportunity to brief some of you privately as to several of those options. Some of those options are a little more palatable from a legal perspective than others, but we are keeping all options on the table and continuing to look closely at all available possibilities to limit or otherwise eliminate the increment payment. The exemption process, as Brianne indicated, is certainly an option that's available on a pathway that's before us, and we're in the process of preparing the appropriate documentation to move forward in that direction. And we'll continue to work with her and our counterparts at the city and the CRA to ensure that we're moving certainly in the best direction legally that we can. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I just want to thank Chuck for doing another wonderful article and getting a positive light on the district out to the public. I think you're doing a really good job, Chuck. And I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Bob, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I understand you cannot see me. Sorry, I'm at a farm in Arkansas, and the power went out there quickly. So I missed what Brianne had to say about the CRA, and I'm sure, like everyone else, I was disappointed that this document was extended. I have to believe that in the initial writing of that document. It was never intended to be renewed past the accomplishment of what we needed to have, what was needed at the time. And I hope that we'll find other ways without having to, the city has been and it can be a very good partner to us. And I want that to continue, but we may have to look to what we're funding and find some other ways, because we have some properties that we need to develop. And the funding that we're paying to the CRA is certainly going to hold us back from those opportunities. And so perhaps there's something when we get into our budget, we'll find some ways that we can trim here and there that will allow us to continue to do those things. Because now look at the maintenance costs that we're running into at Sugar Sand Park with the community center. And we'll continue to have those as we go on. And I just appreciated Brianne. I'm sorry I couldn't be there to support you in that presentation. And I know it was looking at the replay that it was somewhat frustrating to you, the lack of attention at times. But that's all I got to say. I'm appreciate being on the Zoom, but it's probably good that you can't see me because I'm in the mud room here at the camp where we keep all of our hunting gear.
Thanks, Bob. Steve, you want to go next?
First, Susie, you stole my thunder. I was going to give Chuck the same compliment, but I'll give it to him anyway. You do a fantastic job, and it's created a lot of conversation and a lot of awareness of what the Beach and Park District is and the fact that we're a separate entity from the city. So you've done in the last, 6 or 8 months, what we have been unable to do for 40 years. So thank you. My 2 cents on the CRA is there are options available to us outside of trying to put a cap on our obligation. I would like to pursue those options and do it. Florida statutes gives us a path, and I'd like to pursue that path and just follow the process. But eventually, we're going to have to figure this out. And as Bob said, we're going to have to look at options where we can divert funding from properties that we're funding for the city now into our own, because we need the money. Other than that, I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. May you enjoy all you eat, and well, I'll just leave it at that. Enjoy your family and your food and what the holiday is about.
Well said.
Craig?
I agree everything about Chuck, and that's a bonus. So that's all good. Can't say anything different on that. Regarding the CRA, first, the large majority of everything we do goes to the city, and it's the same residents. So we definitely have the incentive to go work things out. But it does create a kind of long-term perpetual gaping hole in our budget. And for people who don't understand it, it's literally our tax dollars that would normally be collected in the city area are returned to the city, and the city can do what they want with it, but they're not putting it directly into offsetting some of the costs for parks that we would want to do. So my suggestion would be, and that what my understanding is that the city has engaged a special counsel. We should also explore engaging someone with special counsel specifically on a CRA matter. Not that Jeff or that Jacob and Sam can't do it. They can do quite a bit of what they see in it, but I want the true expert who would be give us another set of eyes of guidance on that whole thing. I think we should explore that to have the right people talking to them, because the city has already engaged someone separate from it. And so I think that's important to get your ducks in a row. More importantly, it will kick off the process that will develop, I hope, into discussions and mutual discussions and to work things out in a number of other areas that I think would be best handled between the new city manager and Brianne. And I'm optimistic that those things, all these things can get resolved. It's just a matter of understanding where everyone is at, having a say on some of these things. And we have a vested interest in our parks and making them better. And I think the city has a vested interest in making parks and beaches better. So we have the common goals to do a lot of good things. We need to do that. And if we get agreement on how they're allocating some of their dollars towards it, does it really matter? It may not. And I think it can be worked out. So.
Well, I think we also have the opportunity to discuss the CRA with our counterparts at city council as well. I know I have a couple of people that I can talk to, just so they know our position on it. And I apologize for not being at the meeting because I do like going to those meetings and going back and forth with them. So, but I do apologize for that. So thank you for going and, and so that's it. So if you guys are willing to reach out to city council / CRA members, I think that would be a good thing because then we're making that effort to discuss it with them beforehand. You know, before any additional council is involved or, you know, whatever. So if we can just express our views and where opportunities lie.
I know at least one, and I'll go after that one.
Okay. All right. And happy Thanksgiving. And we'll see everybody in a couple of weeks. Okay.
Sure.
I thought someone else was.
Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang,
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion
All right. We are adjourned.
Happy Thanksgiving all.